Well, the Red Sox and Orioles are playing a Little League game right now, but the big leagues are showing just how unpredictable the trade deadline can be. The Yankees were once mighty, and now they're not so much. And one of the most shocking trades that looked like it was going to fortify a team into a legitimate pennant contender has been the definition of a bust. I'll tell you what's not a bust. Locked On MLB. Hello, baseball fans, and welcome to Locked On MLB, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. This is the daily podcast. We talk about all of Major League Baseball. I'm your host, Paul Francis Sullivan. As you can see from my lower third, you can call me Sully, but if you're watching this on the YouTube, you can tell it is not a normal show. It is a Monday show. And as we do every Monday, we do a crossover with the host of Locked On Diamondbacks. He's right over there. What's your name, buddy?
Yes, sir. Miller Thomas over here, Sonny.
And he is the host of Locked On Diamondbacks. We're going to be talking a little bit about, well, let's just call it exactly the way it is. Kind of a nutso week. The Atlanta Braves and the Houston Astros. Let me tell you something. If that would be a rematch of the World Series, if those are the kind of games we're going to see, that might be kind of fun. But one team in New York is playing like a team that wants to win the World Series. Another team in New York is playing like a team that wants to watch the World Series at home. And it's not the teams that you thought they were going to be just a month and a half ago. Well, you can follow us at Locked On MLB Pods. Same handle for Instagram. I'm your pal Sully. I'm at Sully Baseball on Twitter, Sully Baseball Podcast on Instagram. Miller, where can people follow you?
At Creator Thomas24 for my personal account on Twitter, or look up the show account Locked On Diamondbacks on Twitter, Instagram, and of course, follow the show on YouTube, Locked On Diamondbacks there as well.
All right, let me just say, I'm not going to go dwell on the Little League game. I think it's fun. You know, you have the Little Leaguers there. It's in a different environment. More of the players are mic'd up. It's certainly a better matchup than we had in the Field of Dreams game, Baltimore and Boston. It's interesting. Boston's had such a disappointing season, and yet they're one good week of kind of climbing back into it. It's so, because none of the teams want to put the aft thrusters on. But I like having a weird game like that. Maybe they should think of doing one a month. Maybe have one a month in an unusual place. I think the weekend where they induct the players in the Hall of Fame, they should play a game in Cooperstown. There's the Abner Doubleday Field there. Have two teams play in Cooperstown. You have the All-Star game, which I think should be the beginning of the year. Are they going to do Field of Dreams every year? I think it got a little stale this year. Maybe try something new. But I like it. It kind of breaks things, especially in the middle of we're in the middle of August right now. It kind of breaks things up and has a fun, unusual game in the middle of it.
I mean, they usually say these are the dog days of August because this is like the point of the season where it drags a little bit. So I think switching it up does help the sport of baseball. And like the Red Sox, like you were just mentioning, like every time I look at those wild card standings and I see like the Red Sox are like 4 games back of the wild card, I'm like, how are the Red Sox still within this wild card race? It felt like they conceded on the season months ago. And yet, like you said, one good week and Evaldi, maybe if he gets healthy, and it's like, all right, they could maybe be back in the wild card race and knocking off the Yankees in the wild card round once again.
Well, I mean, you jumped a little ahead there about the Yankees there. And I'm not going to concede the division away from the Yankees at this point. But I mean, like we'll just sort of briefly looking around. I mean, you see their teams that just are not putting their foot to the throats of the competition. I mean, right now the wild card is in the American League a dead heat between the Mariners, the Rays, and the Toronto Blue Jays. But the Mariners lost 5-3 to Oakland today, and the Twins were pounded by Texas 7-0. And they can't. Some of these, like the Twins, could be climbing into it or climbing back against idle Cleveland, who got rained out today. And none of these teams seem to be taking advantage. You could even say with the great collapse that the Orioles have had, the Blue Jays have only been playing mediocre ball. So while that lead has been trimmed from what was it, 15, 16 games down to 8, it probably could have been down to 4 or 5 if Toronto had played a little better against some lousy teams. So, it's so many of these teams are almost saying, no, after you. Like they're not putting the other teams away in some of these races.
Yeah, because Toronto was like a hot pick in the preseason to make to the World Series, and they've never really had a point this season where they've like taken off or had some hot stretch. Like you're saying, like this month of August, like if you look at their offensive numbers for Toronto, like they're not very good so far this month offensively. So it's like they're one of those teams that you feel like at any moment with the talent they have on paper should start to separate themselves from the rest of the pack, and it just hasn't happened. And a team like the Baltimore Orioles, like with the trade deadline moves that they made, I'm not sure they want to be in the wild card race. They might be trying to get a higher pick, and they're like, listen, stop trying to win all these games in the middle of August and September because we actually want a top 10 pick. We don't like what we're doing right now.
Yeah, well, it's interesting that the National League seems to be certainly the division leaders in the National League have
it's more
been
predictable.
Yeah, I mean the Mets, who had a wild series of games against Philadelphia, including today where they came from behind with Canna hitting the big home run in the ninth to give them the lead, and then Diaz, who had not pitched for a few days, and he looked pretty rusty, and he let up 2 balls to the warning track that would have been walk-off home runs for Philadelphia. Instead, the Mets win that game 10-9 in a great pitcher's duel when it goes 10-9. The Dodgers just seem invincible.
They're the Dodgers.
I mean, they're already clinched a winning season. They're playing literally 700 ball.
Just look at their run differential. They're like plus 100, the second best run differential team in baseball. Like they're plus 200 and something.
264, yeah.
Yeah, and the Weather Mets, I think they're second in baseball.
Or with 126.
Yeah,
and also the St. Louis Cardinals. I was actually going to talk about this a little later, but why not? We'll talk about it right now. St. Louis Cardinals have won the last week of games. They're on a 7-game winning streak and are just putting the space between themselves and Milwaukee. Milwaukee is out of the wild card right now, and they're now 5 games behind St. Louis. And lo and behold, it's turned back the clock here in St. Louis as Adam Wainwright's having a terrific season. They're getting production out of Molina. But guess what? Albert Pujols is on a tear right now. He has 13 home runs, which gives him 692 for his career. 692. And he says he's going to retire after this year. And he needs to hit 8 more home runs to join a grand total of, 2 other players have 7 home runs? Babe Ruth and 3. Babe Ruth, Barry Bonds, Henry Aaron. Only 3 with 700 home runs. Albert Pujols is 8 away. And man, oh man, you keep thinking about some of those years where he was injured or not as productive in the Angels. He had 10 seasons with the Angels. Just hit 1 more home run each of those years. 1 more home run in 8 of those 10 years. And he would be at 700 right now. Do you think he's going to make it?
It's interesting. I don't know. 8 more home runs in this kind of season for Albert Pujols. I mean, he's been on fire recently. I think he has like 5 home runs in his last 5 games. So he's been on a tear. Playing in St. Louis, he does seem like a different animal. Even when he played with the Dodgers, he seemed better. I think just being outside that Angels organization, like they just have some kind of aura and that black cloud hanging over it that just infects all their players, because I think we're just going to totally forget that Albert Pujols spent a decade in LA. Like I think we're just going to remember him as a St. Louis Cardinal and just forget those 10 years he spent in Los Angeles, because it was just an unmemorable time and there was just nothing good going on. Even though he was playing with another great player, Mike Trout, it's just like you're not going to remember anything from his time with the Angels.
Well, it's kind of like who remembers Ken Griffey Jr.'s year with the Reds? Don't you only think about him with the Mariners?
Yeah, but it was like it's a decade for Pujols, which is insane versus like the short sample size that Ken Griffey Jr. spent with the Cincinnati Reds. But for Pujols, I mean, I just don't feel like he's going to get there this season. I think it would be a great thing. Have you ever seen that movie, Mr. 3000? I think it would be kind of like that. I think Pujols will have to come back and say he's not going to retire and just come back and be a pinch hitter for next season and try to get like those last 3 or 4 home runs he's probably going to need to make the 700 club.
Do you know who also is just shy of the 700 club? Is Alex Rodriguez.
Yeah.
How many? He finished with 796. Now, keep in mind, he was suspended for a season and a half and retired in the middle of the 2016 season. But man, just 4 more home runs, and A-Rod would be in that conversation. Maybe, I don't know. Maybe it's having just 3 in the 700 club. It just shows you how hard it is to hit 700 home runs. I mean, think of how long Albert Pujols has been a legitimate major league slugger. Even some of those years, which were down years in when he was playing in Anaheim, yeah, they were disappointing for him, but he still hit 40 home runs in 2015, 31 home runs in 2016, 23 home runs in 2019. All those years where he would hit these homers, and he's been playing for 22 seasons. Henry Aaron played for 23 seasons and finished with 755 home runs. And keep in mind, he never hit 50. Henry Aaron never hit 50. He never had that one season that kind of, blew the roof off of his average. But to be fair, neither has Albert Pujols. Albert Pujols has never had a 50 home run season either. So, this shows, great player.
Yeah.
Hall of Famer.
And if the Cardinals, if they continue to separate themselves from the Brewers continue to slide in that division. As we get to that last month of the season, maybe the final couple weeks, you just start playing Albert Pujols a little bit more, knowing he's getting close to that 700 record. If there's nothing to play for the Cardinals, you already got your postseason, division locked up. Just give Pujols as many bats as possible and let him crack that 700 home run total.
And let me also say that this is Pujols already has a pair of World Series rings. He's had tremendous postseason glory, was a MVP of the NLCS in 2004, hit the huge home run against Lidge, hit 3 home runs, one of the few players that hit 3 home runs in one game in a World Series game. So he's obviously an all-time great.
Goated.
But it's nice, barring injury and barring a collapse, which the Cardinals don't look like they're on the verge of a collapse, that our last image of Albert Pujols will be in the postseason.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's, I think that's neat. I like it when you say when a legit star like him has a grand finale, has something that, you can, that they're playing for something at the end. And that's great.
Yeah. And they're good. They have a legit shot at the title. They're just not a team that's going to sneak into the postseason and be a wild card and one and done. They actually have a chance at winning the World Series this year.